Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Ian Sparks, Director of Technology at the Hashgraph Group. This is a really interesting one. I'm excited to do this. Those of us that have been in the blockchain and DLT space for a while know that anybody that's been building in or as a community member or, just kind of anything in blockchain knows the reality where if something breaks, doesn't work, if somebody has a question, there's often no clear place to go. When we did a prep call for this, Ian, you mentioned that essentially what happens in crypto is that people seem to scream into the abyss, which I thought I would use that again. But so this is an industry-wide gap, though, and Hashcare was announced in November by the Hashgraph Group, and that aims to solve a lot of the problems that we have about onboarding or questions in this space. So today we're going to break down what Hashcare is, how it's going to incorporate and really provide kind of this almost like a customer service base for enterprise and community as a whole, and what it changes. Ian, as we kick off here, because I'll just keep rambling with my intro, can you give us maybe just a brief intro of yourself, and then I'll kick off with Hashcare.
Yeah, so Ian Sparks, I've been in the game, as you can see, for quite a while. I joined the Hashgraph Group for about a year ago, always looking at the productionization and the operational maturity of what we produce. And one of the things that I noticed when I started was that we are lacking a place for people to sort of place their questions. I mean, and I think actually Hashcare is sort of, I can call it my baby. I think in reality, it was the fact that, well, why can't we ask questions and expect an answer? And I know there are places you can go to ask questions, but the expecting answer is the problem bit. So it was really I would say my initiative to kick this off and say, well, look, we'll do our best. And I know we're not superhuman. We'll try and provide that single place that people can go and have a good expectation that someone will take their issue seriously. I think that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think you talk about it a little bit. I mean, so we kind of tackle the what is Hashcare and what problem it was designed to solve. I mean, this is kind of an industry wide issue. But again, I think that you have to start somewhere. I know just from my experience in the Hedera ecosystem, and then obviously more broadly speaking in crypto, it's like you kind of realize after you've been here for a handful of years, a decade, whatever, that you have almost these industry network experts, I guess, like quasi experts, but it's like super tribal knowledge where it's like I go to this guy to ask a question and that guy I know is already probably ridiculously busy. So I'm asking him and it's like, okay, well, which fire is that guy going to put out first? But I think it's a testament to what you guys are doing out of the Hashgraph Group to take a stance and be like, hey, there needs to be some sort of a solution here. And you guys made the decision, I think it was back in November of last year, to build and operate this dedicated help desk for the Hedera network and for what the work that you guys are doing out of the Hashgraph Group and the Hashgraph Association. Why do you feel like it was important for the Hashgraph Group to step into that role? Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to be clear on what we're trying to do, first of all, as I mentioned before, we're not going to get everything right first go, but what we want to do is we want to give a focal point. We want to be a concentrator for the information. We want to build up the kind of the role as an oracle. And this is not in any way to say that Discord is, there's not good stuff going on there. The problem is with places like Discord is that the information is very ephemeral. It happens and you see an answer and then it scrolls off the top and it's gone. And I know there are things happening in the Discord that to say, okay, like star this answer as being a good answer. But there's no one writing the kind of the Bible and saying, okay, well, we'll remember that for next time. And we will stick that in our knowledge base. And we will try and well, the AI will pick it up the next time. The reason why I kind of think it's important, and this probably comes from my background from while I was in Swisscom before joining the Hashgraph Group, and I know within large companies like Swisscom, people don't want to lead out of the window to suggest a new technology if they know that if it goes wrong, it's all their fault. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say to people, look, you can use our technology, you can experiment with it, and you know what? If it goes wrong, you've got someone to point to say, these guys have taken the case for me and they're looking at it. And this is a way of kind of de-risking the whole of the community engagement with Hedera from the point of view of people working in larger organizations. I mean, if you're just doing it for fun, that's one thing, right? And we'll serve that as well, and we will answer the questions. There's no like big barrier to you getting in and having a talk with us. But the real point is, if we want to see penetration into the enterprise space, we have to back people up. We have to put our money where our mouth is, that Hedera is good technology and a good place to be, and we'll look after you.
Sure. No, and I think you mentioned the process of like, Discord right now, and obviously we're heading towards more and more adoption and eventually mass adoption of blockchain and DLT. But I don't ever assume that like some random person is just going to like go onto Discord and be like, where do I find the checkbox? So I think you bring it up perfectly, which is like, we need to get to a point where certainly similar or even maybe the exact same question probably is getting asked in some way, shape, or form. So it's like, A, how do you eliminate redundancy? And then it becomes about more of, okay, like, are the entities within that are building on Hedera, are they looked at more as like this entity to like solve ticket requests, or is it like a trusted technology partner? And our process is streamlined, is onboarding streamlined? If there's a question, whether it be a super technical individual or whether it be like a C-suite individual that just is in management that has a question, that stuff can get filtered and get answered. So I think there is a distinction between like the very straightforward, like ticket-oriented approach and trusted technology partner for enterprise adoption. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how you would view, kind of through your background at Swisscom and now your role at the Hashgraph Group, what you would feel like that trusted technology partner should look like right now, and how that maybe evolves in the future too?
Well, first of all, the reason why we thought THG was a good place to kick this off from, we've been building projects on Hedera for a long time. And one of the things that we have is we've managed to gather quite a bit of experience over time actually doing it ourselves. And one of the tricks of what we're doing with Hashcare is we'll actually have developers from our own team cycling in, doing like a secondment within the Hashcare team, and then cycling back out in. We also get something from it. We get to find out what other people's concerns are. These guys aren't going to be in the first line, right? They're going to be in level 2, level 3. But after you've dealt with the AI for the trivial stuff and the level 1 guys who are there to sort of qualify the ticket and make sure it's reproducible and it's really a thing, and we don't already know a solution for it, we then get to the guys that, basically at the end of the day, this is their bread and butter. They know how to solve this. They've got the links to other people in a similar position. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to sort of gather everybody in a huddle that can help apply the knowledge that we've got. So that's really what we're trying to aim for there.
So you mentioned before, whether you're an enterprise or whether you're just kind of exploring the space for fun, because obviously if we assume, I'm not making the assumption for you. I assume that this technology long term is more of like an upgrade to kind of the internet, where what the internet did for information, blockchain and DLT kind of do for value. So you're going to have all sorts of different individuals, but Hashcare, from what you said, or my understanding is that it's meant to support everybody from individual developers to enterprise to just individuals looking to maybe explore the space and the ecosystem. How important is it to design a customer care or customer support system or help desk that is almost agnostic as to who it helps? Yeah.
So, I mean, the straight answer in any ticketing system is the kind of SLA you get. Of course, we deal with community, and that, let's be honest, that's going to be best effort. We take the problem seriously, and of course, we want to do the best job with them, but we're not going to guarantee to have your problem fixed in an hour. That's the thing that the commercial people need, right? And of course, that comes with a lot more machinery on the back end. That comes with well, we have to pay people to be there all day, every day. And of course, if you pay the SLA.
Well, think about it this way too. Like, I would imagine too that like when you're getting like new entrants or like community questions, I would have to assume that a lot of those answers are going to come from eliminating the redundancy of those questions
Absolutely.
over time.
Yeah.
So, okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. And that's where we want to apply. The first thing you talk to, and I know this is a controversial statement, the first thing you will talk to will actually be an AI agent. And we will do things that you would expect an AI agent to do. You say, well, I've got this transaction and why didn't it work? And you give it the transaction ID, it will go and look up the transaction ID, find out the error code, and it will say to you, it didn't work because la, 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 okay? If it's not a simple, straightforward a question and answer like that, then you get into the humans. And this is where there's a feedback loop here. Once we've seen something once or maybe twice, we try and train the AI to deal with it for you. Okay, so this is where you'll manage to get immediate response. So you'll ask something, it's something we've seen before, we know how to deal with it, we'll have told the agent how to deal with it, and you can get served happily back on your way sort of immediately. You know, and that's what we're doing there. And then of course for the real tricky stuff, that goes up through the levels with progressively more experienced people. And of course, if you've got a round the sun, sort of follow the sun service level, because your application is that important, well, then it follows the sun over the various teams there. So,
Sure.
But our aim is to provide a single, if you like, one single throat to strangle for Hedera questions. Somewhere that you could go and you have a good chance of getting a decent answer quickly, and moreover, someone who's going to take your concerns seriously. And we're not saying what you can come and ask us. The only limitation is let's have it about Hedera, you know, whether it's the SDK or the status of the network or things that might be coming up in HIPS or so forth. Ask us. There's no problem. If we can provide a slick, clean answer, we will. If we can't, well, we'll try and find out and get back to you the soonest we can with a decent answer. And it might be, let's be honest, with that breadth of question coming in, it might well be, yeah, look, we don't know. Look, we have to go and we have to open an issue on GitHub to get any further on this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, and I know you mentioned it might be like a taboo thing, but I actually will take the alternate viewpoint with AI. And it's like for any of us, and I'm sure you are, Ian, for any of us that are paying attention to what's going on with AI right now, I mean, just the level of sophistication that you can build in to train these models out is getting to like, well, it's past the point of ridiculousness, obviously. So, you know, I think that there's a real opportunity here to not only help to to not only help to like solve questions or, you know, onboarding questions, whatever it may be through like kind of this help desk system, but almost like use it as a tool to essentially like activate more more onboarding into the ecosystem in general. Because, you know, I look at it in a way where like, and this is kind of a sidebar question for me, but obviously out of the Hashgraph Group, there's a lot of different enterprise products between digital identity. Let's say my dogs are barking, so give me a second. You probably can't even hear them.
Just about. They're not disturbing.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I actually look at it as an opportunity, because if you look at like the Hashgraph Group suite of products and the Hashgraph for Enterprise, there's obviously like a range of verticals that at some point in time, as we get more and more mass adoption, probably start to converge. So you have identity, you have logistics and supply chain, you have ESG, you have you know, custody, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I would imagine what ends up happening is obviously you have the agentic aspect of this, but then like let's say enterprises come and they're like, hey, we have X, Y, and Z, or we're onboarded into, you know, ID Trust, or we're onboarded into Track Trace or something like that. Obviously, they're going to probably go to more of like some of the ownership actors that are running some of those products from a project management standpoint. It's like, okay, AI might not have answered the initial thing. It immediately kicks to like industry experts. So I think it's really interesting, because what it essentially does is like, as more and more enterprises on board, they're going to want more enterprise grade elements. Like SLAs and service level agreements are pretty standard in business and in enterprise. I'm not familiar with ITIL compliant processes. I saw that in one of the press releases too, but talk about the level of reliability expected from enterprises, from institutions, from real world businesses that are building on Hedera now, and maybe how you expect that to continue in the future. What do they expect to see?
Well, what they expect to see is their service level fulfilled, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, so if you pay for business hours, then you expect business hours. If we can overachieve, then of course we'll do it. But we have to cut the cloth. We have to make our suit to fit the cloth. So the for the community, as I said, it's best effort. All the time that our people aren't working on a critical for enterprise X, they'll be going through the backlog of the tickets that we've got open. Our idea is for a newly conceived help desk with a properly trained AI, we can manage about half, maybe a bit more than half of all of the tickets with a simple first call, ask a question, get an answer.
Yeah.
Actually trying to retrofit something like this to an existing help desk is quite difficult. It takes a lot more effort, but what we're conceiving this in from the very first day. And that's the way that I guess people have probably understood this is what we're doing. The funding for the help desk comes partially from THA and partially from the enterprise contracts that we're going out to market with. And of course, our first obligation is to meet the SLA, right? If you need 24/7 round the sun, then obviously that has a price, and there are penalties if we don't meet it. So that's where we have to put our focus. But to do that, you have to build a lot of fat into the system. So to get a round the clock, follow the sun type help desk in place, you need like 25 people, you know, accounting for
And once
sickness.
you, I mean,
it's a big team.
once you, I mean, if you are already doing, I mean, I think the whole, my whole kind of takeaway is like, or a big takeaway that I have here is like, you have a lot of people that are experts in certain regards to Hedera as a network, to I'm sure the Hashgraph Group suite of products for Hashgraph for Enterprise, to anything out of the Hashgraph Association. So you have all of these kind of individuals. What I would foresee, happening here is like, again, as I mentioned before, anytime a question gets answered and it doesn't go, and you mentioned it kind of like there's no Bible for, building in Hedera. Once that question gets, if an old question gets answered and then nothing happens with that cycle, the question and answer, and then that question gets asked again a year later, and somebody has to go through the process of once again researching and answering the question, it's like, how can we build out almost like SEO or like search engine optimization for questions and answers on Hedera at a base level of like the ways that agents can maybe deal with some of the normal questions that get asked, which I think has a huge value proposition for the network. And I guess the question I have in that regard is, I don't, and I'm sure maybe some things like this in some way, shape, or form exist on other networks, but I can't remember seeing anything like this even attempted yet in crypto or blockchain or DLT. So like maybe touch base on that as far as if you feel like, what would be maybe like tickers for you that feel like this is successful at kind of first crack as it grows, and what do you think it will do for the network compared to what else exists out there, I guess?
Well, I'm not aware of anything which is comparable, which exists out there at the moment. You can get support contracts for things like node hosting. So you're running a public node somewhere, and you can get someone to look after it, but it's basic uptime type stuff. It's not trying to do what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the concentrator for the information that there is out there. How do we know if it's successful? Well, we know if it's successful if people use it, to be honest, and that will be how we know that we're doing a good job. If people come back and instead of sitting there on their hands, not knowing what to do, they say, well, there's those guys over at Hashcare, let's give it a try. That is the sign of success for us. That we become a trusted element within the Hedera Hashgraph world. And
sure,
the way this will actually,
that's a huge, I mean, in blockchain and distributed ledger in 2026, I mean, we're finally starting to see some stuff be used. So, I mean, we expect that trend to continue. Sorry to interrupt.
The way that we actually know, if we want to see numbers, the way we know that it's been a success is pure ticket volumes. And then there are satisfaction levels. There's the CSATs, which we will be asking for, which generally don't have most people, once they get their problem solved, they're gone, right? They don't want to hang around and say 5 stars or whatever it is. And first call resolution, that's also a huge measure of success for you. Were we able to help you immediately with your question? And all of those three are the metrics that we will measure our own success with. If you're on a commercial thing, then of course there's the SLA thing. It will be, did you get your answer on time as well? And of course, even for the community support, we don't want things hanging around, because once you start building up a backlog, it then becomes terrible to try and get it back down to a manageable level. So from the very first day, there's the push there to keep the ticket volume coming in and going out, because otherwise you get lost.
I wonder if, and this is just like more out of a curiosity, like I wonder if over time, if there's a way to almost anchor the like a successful ticket, like a ticket resolution onto like Hedera consensus server. Like, so I'm just thinking like out of the box, like, is there a way to kind of have a feedback loop that almost like feeds into network statistics as well? But yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it as far as like, look, there's lots of KPIs in blockchain and distributed ledger, but at the end of the day, the best KPIs are real users using something, and are you kind of closing the loop out? And eliminating the redundancy of some of the questions, I think, is going to be a huge value proposition in and of itself. But as I mentioned, I think like once you get to like the level 2, level 3, like industry expert type stuff, it should almost like encourage a deepening of relationships within some of the products on Hedera that through the Hashgraph Group or whoever. I want to do maybe a forward-looking statement with you, Ian, here. And it's the low-hanging fruit one, but looking ahead, where do you see Hashcare moving, or wider the Hashgraph Group initiatives, like whatever you want to talk about to close us out? What are you excited about for the remainder of 2026?
I've been in open source since 2006. For me, the community aspect has been the great holy grail, which I think everyone has been struggling with. I hope we can become a focal point to try and make the community really powerful within Hedera. That's my own personal wish, and of course there's all the other things, like you have to make your SLAs and you have to keep improving and all the rest of it. But my own personal wish is that we empower the people out there so they can just get on with the stuff they're building, right? The passion comes from being able to do cool things. And when something gets in your way, it's irritating. Sometimes it's the end of the road, and we want to turn it into barely an inconvenience. That's what we want to do.
So where should people, as we close out here, go to learn more, or what channels, I guess, should people pay attention to for when more information does release about Hashcare, the main Hashgraph Group channels? And yeah.
So you'll find the most information and the easiest way of actually interacting with Hashcare via the THA membership portal. So that's membership.hashgraph.swiss. So go in there. That would be a place to bookmark, and then you can get the links onto it from that. We're running up actually another domain to make it much easier to remember. We want to get hashcare.support, but that's not ready at the moment. Give it a month or two. It should be a real mnemonic. You can just say, oh, well, I want some Hashcare and I want some support, hashcare.support. There we go. Boom, done.
So definitely go and check out the Hashgraph Association membership portal. As Ian mentioned, membership.hashgraph.swiss. You can learn more about Hashcare, which again is, I mean, not only like exciting, but I would say needed for the adoption kind of moving forward. But obviously there's press releases out here on Hashcare. This was last November where everything kind of released. And you can go to Hashgraph tacgroup.com/products to learn about the Hashgraph for Enterprise suite, which Hashcare falls under. I want to give a huge shout out to the Hashgraph Association for helping to put these podcasts together. Give them a follow at _Hashgraph and the Hashgraph Group at Hashgraph Group. Ian, it's been a pleasure. I told you this would be minimally painful. So I thought it was awesome. And I think I speak for probably everybody. This is going to be a huge value to the whole Hedera ecosystem. And it's awesome to see the Hashgraph Group taking a leadership stance and making this possible. So thank you so much, Ian.
I hope we can make a big difference. That would make me personally very happy.